Introduction. Jack and the Beanstalk, English folk tale, mid to late 1800s. Once upon a time there was a poor widow who lived in a cottage in the woods with her only son Jack. Jack was a flighty, shallow, and thoughtless boy. There had been a hard winter, and after it the poor woman had suffered from fever. Jack would do no work, and before long they grew desperately poor. The widow saw that the only thing she could do to keep the two of them from starvation was to sell her cow. So, one morning she said to her son, "You must take the cow to market for me and sell her." Although Jack complained at first, eventually he complied. But as he was on the way, he met an old man who had some beautiful beans in his hand. Jack stopped to look at them, and the man told the boy that they were magic, and persuaded the foolish lad to sell the cow for these beans. Jack brought them home to his mother instead of the money she needed. She was greatly dismayed and shed many tears, scolding Jack for his folly. Mother and son went to bed very sadly that night. Their last hope seemed gone. Jack, a lazy, foolish, disobedient, dishonest, and murderous thief. But somehow the story ends. Then Jack showed his mother his golden harp, and what with showing that and selling the golden eggs, Jack and his mother became very rich, and he married a great princess, and they lived happily ever after. It doesn't seem to make sense, does it? That's because that wasn't the way it happened. Prologue. In the time before the great gold rush, when the hills and the valleys were filled with the sounds of men shouting and digging and fighting, each one trying to find that one lucky strike that would set them up for a lifetime of comfort and ease, I was known simply as Taran. Of course, like most of you, I was known by other names as well: Friend, Son, Tracker, and there were even some who suspected a bit more and called me Sage or Sorcerer or Giant. But these names were never spoken in my presence. I suppose I did have a sort of magic about me. I could read the signs of the forest better than anyone else. I could tell if a winter was going to be particularly cold and snowy simply by the order in which the trees shed their leaves in the fall. I could understand the cadences and whispers of the wind, and could sometimes even direct and control it with the songs that I sang in return. And I had a special connection with many of the forest animals. There were a few animals, like the wolverine and the scrayhawk, that would not befriend even their own kind. But most of the other animals seemed to feel comfortable in my presence, and I loved them. Of all the names I was known by, perhaps my favorite was Healer. It was in this name that I most willingly found my identity. It was always my great delight to find an animal in the woods that was wounded and to gently repair what was broken. I don't really know how I learned to do this. It seemed like I'd always been able to do it. In fact, I never would have known it was anything special had it not the other humans around me made such a big deal of it. Humans. It's funny to think of categorizing them in this way when to their eyes I'm just like them. I suppose they are mostly right. I am mostly human, and I have spent most of my life living among them. However, I cannot, even now, deny that other part of who I am. It is that other part of me that has caused so much pain. I guess that is why I'm writing this down now, at the end of my life. And I know it is the end. I can feel it. To the children who come around my cottage and run errands for me, I am known as Old Mr. Tarringer, and old is definitely what I am. I am older than any of them could imagine. It is part of the blessing and the curse of the non-human part of me. I have lived many, many years, almost 2 centuries in fact. It has been so long and I am so tired, and yet here at the end it all seems like a mist in the early morning that quickly vanishes at first hints of the sun. It is a life not dissimilar to many of the lives I see around me, a life of great joys and adventures and loves, and also a life of regrets. Oh yes, I have regrets. Some big, some small. But as I look over the years of my life, there is one regret that stands above them all. It is this, that I didn't tell my story earlier. It was, I suppose, an act of self-preservation, for to tell the truth of what happened will undoubtedly implicate me in certain matters. In this I have been a coward. I have hidden behind my false identity these last many years because of my desire to flee from the accusations, some from without, most from within. So as I write this account, I will simply tell it as it really was, and you can decide whether the accusations are true or false. For of all the names that I have had in my life, the one that I most despise and wish most to be free from is this: murderer.